Oh, hello. In your arguments, you use mostly reason and the brain to argue against religion and the Bible. The ancient philosopher Blaise Pascal wrote in his Pensées, "The heart has reason in which reason does not know. We know this in countless ways." What would you say to people who try to lead a good and just life by through their religion and by following what is in their hearts, rather than following the literal sayings of the Bible and following reasoning?
Yeah, well, I certainly don't mean to diminish experience that has nothing to do with coming to a rational understanding of the way the world works. I mean, much of our experience is not a matter of reason. It's not a matter of belief even, and some of the most important aspects of our experience aren't. So experiencing love and devotion and awe, I mean, these are features of our subjectivity that I think are extraordinarily valuable. The important thing to recognize is that if you think the only real container, the only viable container for those experiences is your denominational church, is the language of your ancestors, if you're still committed to being a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew, I think you are tacitly supporting the religious divisions in our world. I mean, you are giving cover, I think, quite explicitly to all of the people who take their holy books far more seriously. I mean, I can't tell you how much time I and other people have spent having to fight the battle against the liberals and moderate Christians and Jews and Muslims who will insist upon the viability of these denominations and of raising their children to think that they're Christians and Muslims and Jews, and who will never admit that any of the extremist behavior going on in the name of their faith has anything to do with religion. And so there's no question in my mind that it provides a kind of friction in our discourse where we really can't call a spade and say, okay, this is much of the Bible and the Quran is just life-destroying gibberish, and we just have to acknowledge this and cease to take these books seriously.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi. First of all, I loved your first book. I thought it was absolutely brilliant.
Oh,
and
thank you.
Stunned at how young you are, because...
Don't be stunned, I'm not that young.
Yeah. Well, in learning, I mean, I thank you so much for taking the time to study Western and Eastern religions for decades. That's why I thought you were older. And I haven't read the second book yet, I apologize. But my question has to do more with where our beliefs come from. We know there's a lot of peer pressure in our culture to be religious, to have a belief in God, and to be a part of some organized religion. And I have tried my whole life to be a part of that in terms of, I've tried 3 different religions. I've converted twice. And that thing doesn't work for me. The God thing does not work for me. And I've always felt very unhappy about it, that it was a lack somehow in my character. But then I've read recently that there's a study that has been done, and I'm wondering if maybe this is why you're studying neuroscience. There's a study that has been done that posits there may be a belief gene. There may be a gene in people that makes them believers, and those of us who don't have it, we don't have it.
Right. Well, I think you might be referring to Dean Hamer's much publicized notion of the God gene, which...
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken, related to a serotonin receptor or transporter that people have in abundance if they tend to have these transcendent experiences. So it didn't deal with belief per se. I think that the issue of belief is that I don't see religious belief as distinct from any other kinds of beliefs. I mean, we represent the world in our thoughts, and all of us are in the business of hoping that our representations are accurate, or at least accurate enough so that we can successfully negotiate our lives happily. I mean, nobody wants to be mistaken, profoundly mistaken about their place in the world, or about what happens after death, or where their loved ones go after. I mean, we're not in the business of deceiving ourselves just willfully, and so religious beliefs are on all fours with all of our other beliefs. We are describing the world. We're trading in these descriptions through language. Someone says to you, well, do you realize that Jesus is your personal Savior and nobody, He's the way and the truth and the life and nobody gets to heaven but through Him? That is a description of the way this universe is organized in moral terms and in spiritual terms. And it's either right or wrong. And it purports to be right. And it promises terrible consequences to those who don't accept it. Now, this is a very strange scheme, I think, to believe in. I'm not the first person to point out that it's a very strange sort of loving God who would have salvation depend on a person's ability to believe in Him for bad reasons. I mean, it's a weird scenario, but it's a scenario that is many people find emotionally consoling. And this another aspect here is that reason and belief are not easily separated from emotion. I mean, our rational lives are deeply entangled with our emotional lives, and we feel emotional responses to things we find to be unreasonable. I mean, I happen to think that doubt is on a continuum with disgust and other psychological rejection states. And so when we doubt a proposition, we are having an emotional response to it. And so I think we just have to be. I think there's an all-purpose corrective here, which is just intellectual honesty. I mean, if you cease to pretend to be certain about things you're not certain about, see where that gets you. See where that gets you in conversation with other human beings. I think it'll get you a profoundly ethical life. It'll certainly get you a profoundly non-deceptive life.
Which leads me to one other quick follow-up question. When you say being intellectually honest and admitting you don't know these things, you said there were 3 ways to look at religion. 1, that it's true. 2nd, that it's useful.
Yeah.
And 3rd, that you're an atheist and that is a religion. But there's a 4th thing, and that could be that you're an agnostic. You don't know whether it's true or not.
Yeah, but I don't meet too many agnostics about Zeus. All these agnostics about the God of Abraham should also be agnostic about Zeus. I mean, that's the same scenario. Thank you.